Reinvent at 60. Yeah, that kind of makes you shudder a little bit, right? Because you're thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be settled. I'm supposed to be in my zone. I'm supposed to be in that place where I can just kind of like go down my yellow brick road in ease, right? But sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes suddenlies happen. I'm Janice Thorne with the 60 Plus Reset. And today I'm talking about reinventing at 60. No one wants to reinvent at 60, believe me. We want to be able to go into the sunset, buy some property in Paris or, Italy or even Africa and just kind of like work out our remaining days just like in ease. But sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes you have to face some of the suddenlies that happen in this dispensation. I mean, it's a no brainer. We see what's going on the screen of life right now, and people who have been working and just waiting for retirement are being booted out just like that, and their expectation of what their 60 plus life was going to look like, it has been just eliminated. In a day, it's been just changed. So now, what do you do? Well, the first thing I would say is that you have to reevaluate, you have to reset. Well, even before that, you have to emotionally deal with the upset. You have to emotionally deal with what's been presented to you. And that sometimes is not a easy undertaking. And I know, I recently got upsetted by a job that I thought I was going to have for a few more years, but it immediately just vanished. So, what I had to do was to check my emotional stance. And that's important. We have to check our emotional stance. So, how are you feeling? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. How are you feeling? Where are you in your emotions? Are you startled? Have you been taken off balance? I mean, where are you on that scale from 0 to 10? And once you figure out where you are from 0 to 10, then you can just kind of figure out, all right, I'm not truly just off the radar. I can handle this and I'm going to get through this. That's the first thing you have to think about. The second thing is you have to ask yourself, what are my plans from here? You know, I notice that oftentimes when we are in the system, we get so comfortable. We have relied on the system for so long to usher us into our sunset. But things happen at any quadrant of time in your life. You can be 20, you can be 30, you can be 40, you can be 60, and a door closes. And what are you going to do about that? Well, I'm here to tell you that, it's not the end of the world. It isn't. It isn't. So when you are in this space, you think about, what are my plans? What am I going to do now? Because for the most part, if you can be just really, really honest with yourself, can I just say, can you be radically honest with yourself? What have you been doing this time period? Have you been kind of cruising along and waiting until that retirement date? But can you just really be honest with yourself and say, you didn't really enjoy what you were doing? You were doing that because that was something that was bridging you into retirement. Maybe that spark was there when you first started and you were like, oh, I love my job. That's where I was. But after a few years, you're in comfort. You're just in like the how you're on that wheel. What is it? The mouse wheel, you know, and they just go around and around and around and around. You don't really love your job, but you do it because you know that you got to do it to pay the bills, right? So if you would be radically honest with yourself, ask yourself the questions. Was I really feeling this after all of these years? Was I people pleasing after all of these years? Was it really based on, my best performance, or was it just something that was going to get me to the point where I can retire? That's being radically honest with yourself. And if you can do that, then you can say to yourself, well, maybe this was a blessing in disguise. Maybe this was something that has kind of pushed me out into the deep. And there's nothing wrong with that. Launch out into the deep. Launch out into a place that's unknown, maybe even scary. Because what that does is it causes you to, it just starts your juices to start running like, okay, all right, I've been sitting on this for a while, I've been sitting on that for a while, and maybe it's time for me to breathe life into this. So, what I want to say to you for those that are having to reinvent at 60, I would say to you, look at all of the things that you can bring to the table. As a 60 plus person myself, I have a lot of skills. I have a lot of things that I can bring to the table. I want you to be able to examine what is it that you can bring to the table today. How can you build upon it? How can you create something that is amazing, right? How can you even monetize it? I was speaking with a young lady today, and I was telling her that you're an amazing cook. You got all these federal employees that are going back to work, having to sit on an 8 to 5 job. They're not trying to come home and cook. Why don't you be a personal chef? Why don't you be a private chef? Now, mind you, she just lost her job at 60 plus, but she's amazing with cooking. So think about the things that you can do with ease and turn it into something that can really, really benefit you, because we're in a whole different season. We're in a whole different dispensation now. And it's really about us figuring out what we need. It's not about pouring into somebody else's corporation, somebody else's thought system, because we've been doing that forever. And this is what happens when you pour into other systems and corporations and people. They can blindside you at any moment and leave you having to reinvent at 60. So, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to create your own life plan? Are you going to create your own way of getting your life in the place that will serve you better? It's time. You can do it. Stay tuned. On the 60 plus reset, I share more and more about how to get reinvented, repurpose your life, and imagine a greater way of expression here in the 60 plus reset. And if you're really interested in following how to do that in a maximized way, I want you to join my free membership. It's in the bio. Sign up today and also subscribe to my membership. Subscribe also to my channel. Everything that you need is right here, and I'm here to help you get reinvented.